Well, hi everyone, Sean Humphreys here. Welcome to this edition of the Take Charge of Change podcast. So in this edition of the podcast, I'm just going to talk about two very, very simple principles, but I think they have a profound impact in terms of how we look at the necessary training that we need to go through to buffer our resilience. And when I talk about resilience, I'm talking about physical resilience or energy, our emotional resilience, which includes our relationships, our cognitive resilience or cognition, our thinking skills, creativity, our financial resilience, and overall our professional resilience. So as we look at 2017, I wanted to talk about these two concepts because they're critical if you want to make some breakthroughs in 2017. Now, before I talk about the concept, it's really important if you're under the age of 35, you probably won't relate completely to some of the things I'm going to talk about, but it's very important that you start thinking about the future and take into these points into consideration. If you're 40 years of age, then you're going to start, I think, to relate to what I'm going to talk about. It's really critical. And if we don't take it seriously, we're going to sleepwalk into issues where our resilience will be compromised and will be taken out of the game, whether it's burnout or stress or heart attack. You name it, there's things that can just blindside us. But there's also things that we can do to reduce the chances of us being blindsided. So the first thing I want to do is talk about this reality. And the reality relates to the fact that we go through a lot of inertia in life, and this is not new for you. I mean, whatever goal you have in life, we'll say it's point A, and you've got a goal which is point B. So you want to get to this destination point efficiently, in a timely fashion, efficient fashion, to keep the resource costs as low as possible, the time costs. And wouldn't it be nice if it was just a linear kind of pattern like that? But of course we know that as we begin to pursue goals, we begin to experience inertia. And we're constantly fighting through this inertia before we get to our goals. And for many people, when they look at their goals, they'll often give up before they get to point B because of this inertia. Now, what's the difference between people who fight through inertia consistently and achieve their goals and those people that will bail before they get to point B? And really at the end of the day, there's a lot of different factors, but I think that there's one critical factor, and that's related to the intersection point between our personal responsibilities and our energy capacity. And so let's take a look at that. So if we look at our personal responsibilities and our energy capacity, so let's look at this. Along this grid we've got time, and so what we're looking at here is age. And then along this grid here we've got our energy capacity and our responsibilities. So you know at a basic level, I'm not telling you anything new, but we need to make it conscious, right? Because if we're not conscious of it, we get blindsided. So we know that over time, as we go through our 30s, and let's say we finish our high school and we go to university and we get our training, we get off into the workforce, and then we start taking on responsibilities, we start to increase our responsibility uptick. And that continues right through, for many of us professionally, right through into our 50s, we see these increasing responsibilities coming into our life. Now, at the same time that that's happening, when we look at our peak energy, and let's say our peak energy theoretically might be in our 20s, let's say, so our peak physical powers, our cognitive powers might be at that point. But what happens over time is that we have this sort of gradual diminishment of our energy. And so probably by the time we get to 30 years of age, it may not diminish by then, but it's going to start diminishing at that point. For most people, for every decade past the age of 30, unless you've been really intentional in terms of looking after your physical health and your energy, you will begin to see a decline. And what happens for a lot of people is as they get into their 30s, as those responsibilities ramp up, one of the things that happen is that their time to work out, to look after their diet, to do things that deal with stress, help them deal with stress effectively, that gets put to the sidelines for a lot of people. They're just running pillar to post just to balance off all the different priorities. So what do you think your capacities, what happens to your capacities in that circumstance? You see a lot of people gaining a lot of weight, losing their resilience over that time period. But as they pursue their professional goals, their responsibilities are going up while their energy capacities are beginning to go down. And you can hit a critical intersection point, whether it happens here or here, What we do know is that at a certain point, you're going to have increasing responsibilities, but declining energy. That's a really, really critical area. So what happens is a lot of professionals basically just flame out. So that diminished capacity takes place. They flame out. Could be depression, it could be burnout, it could be physical ailments. And so that all these years of experience, growing responsibility, are not taken advantage of too early in somebody's career. And so the whole idea behind resiliency training is to try to make sure that those capacities are maintained as long as possible. The Resilient Professional ebook that we put together is really intended to help you extend this crossover point. So it doesn't happen when you're in your 40s or early 50s, but that those capacities begin to happen later on. More importantly, is a recognition by employers, corporations, and businesses that you need to think through this responsibility equation. I've met a lot of professionals who are very good at what they do. But if you could just take out the politics and the committee meetings and everything else and just unleash those professionals to do what they do best, that would extend their careers dramatically. And so the basic talking point in this presentation is understand that we're fighting through inertia. We drop the ball because our capacity is sometimes compromised. If you download the ebook, The Resilient Professional, we've got a series of chapters that talk about building physical, relational, cognitive resilience and financial resilience. The more you do that, the more you take the pressures off yourself, and so that you can stay in the game for longer periods of time. Hope you enjoyed this edition of the Take Charge of Change podcast. If you want to get more information about these and other topics, make sure that you visit our website at takechargeofchange.com. If you lead teams, sales teams, management teams, then reach out to us. We'd love to engage you in a conversation about how we can develop customized programs to enhance the resilience of your professionals within your organization. All the best for 2017.